All right, my name is Antonio Vega, and I'll be taking you through the 3 different submission methods for data for the Compass PTN portal. First thing we're going to do is the screen you're seeing right here is going to be your login page. This is the page that you'll always be going to log into the Compass PTN portal. Enter in your username and password. Select the home screen. And then you'll have 2 options. Managing practice measure information is going to be the portion of the system where you'll be actually entering in data for your providers that are enrolled in the Compass PTN. Selecting the Manage Practice Level Information will now bring you to the practice dashboard where you'll see all the practices that are associated with your user. So for myself, I'm going to go ahead and select my ABC Family Practice, hit Go. This will now bring me into the Measure dashboard. The Measure dashboard allows me to select what provider I want to enter data for, as well as what measure I want to enter data for. So on the left-hand side, you'll see all the providers that are associated to your clinic. Selecting one of the providers' names, we'll go ahead and pare down the list to just that specific provider. As well as typing in the measure name up top, we'll then pull in all the measures that are associated with that specific name as well. So the first example that we'll go through today is submitting patient-level information. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the month that I'll be reporting on. We have July of 2016, which will be the first month I'll be reporting on. I'll go ahead and select my provider, and then I'll choose one of the measures to submit my patient-level information. So for diabetes, let's say we're going to go ahead and actually submit that at the patient level. Selecting the patient level, and then going down and hitting Save will now save that link and direct me to the portion of the system where I can now go ahead and enter in patient-level information. I'll go ahead and select Add New Patient, and from here, I'll enter in some key demographic information about this specific patient. The member ID can be any unique ID number that is associated to your practice. I'll go ahead and enter in the patient's name, as well as their birthday. You have the option to go ahead and type in or use the calendar icon to pull in the exact date. Choosing in the male or female. And that is it for key information. You can enter in additional information about the patient. However, that is not necessary for the Compass PTN. Other information that I'll need to go ahead and pick is I'll need to go ahead and enter in the provider that is associated to this patient as their primary care provider, as well as my group membership. So again, this is going to be the practice that you are associated with. I'll go ahead and choose the practice that I'm in on. Hitting Submit will now go ahead and create that exact patient. So you can now see on the left-hand side, I see the patient's name, their birthday, as well as their primary care provider. This patient has not been saved, so once this patient has been created, going ahead and hitting the Save button will go ahead and save that patient's record within the system. Now to add a new visit to this specific patient, I'll go ahead and hit Add Visit. This will now bring me into the records portion of the patient-level information. So the first thing I'll go ahead and do is I'll enter in a visit code. Now these will take either the exact code, the encounter code for that specific visit, or you can go ahead and start typing in the exact word. So if it's an office patient visit, 10 minutes, you can type that in and then we'll go ahead and pare down the list. So for myself, and the easier way to probably do this is to go ahead and enter in the exact encounter code. So as I go and do that, you can see it pairs up a list that matches my typing. I'm going to go ahead and select that. So you can see I've selected my 99201 as well as my office patient visit. I'm going to go ahead and select the date, and we'll use today's date today. As you can see, anything with an asterisk is required for this portion of the system. And so for our practices purposes, we'll go ahead and enter in our hypertension information, as that's the measure that we've identified within our practice that we will be working on. So I can go ahead and select the date that we measured this information. So we'll put in our systolic and diastolic, as well as the results for both of those. So this specific patient has great blood pressure. We'll go ahead and hit that. And then the next thing that we need for this specific measure is going to be a diagnosis code. So I will go ahead and put in a diagnosis code. Selecting the tab will bring me into the diagnosis portion of the system. Hitting the plus arrow on the right-hand side will allow me to add a diagnosis to this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the 401, and you can see that enters into the list. Now that is the only thing that is required in this portion of the system. Hitting the submit will allow me to save that information, and then hitting submit one more time will also allow me to enter in that hypertension result. One last thing that I need to note on this is adding in the attending physician is going to be very important for this, as well as that will give credit to that specific physician for seeing this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get that in there. Hitting the submit one more time. We'll now see that I've entered a new visit on that specific patient. On the right-hand side, you can see our measure status. So I've now actually gone ahead and I've fulfilled the requirements to meet the hypertension results. So you can see from my blood pressure, less than 140/90. Clicking on the link right here will bring up a pop-up screen that will show exactly what portions of the patient encounter had met the measure. So if there was an exclusion or if you weren't meeting the specific measure, hitting that hyperlink will give you additional information of what area that you are not specifically hitting in order to fulfill the requirements of that specific measure. And that's a brief overview of the patient-level data submission method. We'll go ahead and go through the other two submission methods here in additional videos.